And
Okay.
we are recording.
All right.
Okay, good luck, everyone. Take care.
Okay. I'm Mary Cunningham, and for any of you that are joining us for the first time tonight, we've had a 6-week course. Tonight's our 6th week, and we've covered a lot of different material, from paranormal material to now what we're in, UFO material. Next week, we do have one more week, so we did add a week. And next week is going to be UFO information. But tonight, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you way out there. I mean, I'm talking way out there. It's going to blow your mind, the material that I have. And then next week, we're going to come bring it back as to more of the people who've been involved in disclosure for the past 20 years, some of the people that go to the conferences, and some of the books and authors that have tried to help with disclosure, whether it's abductees or crop circles or any of that. So tonight, we're going to go beyond comprehension night, and then we're going to bring it back to what you will consider more of a reality next week. Tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to do the secret space program. I gave this presentation. It was a PowerPoint slide presentation back in February of last year. It was one of our last meetings that we actually had physical meetings at our MUFON group. We have about 90 people that come. And unfortunately, because of COVID, we haven't been able to physically meet since March. So unfortunately, it kind of slowed things down. But anyway, this material is fascinating. It's amazing. And what we're going to cover tonight, and I'm going to do a lot of talking, so just hang with me, and then we'll have questions and answers afterwards. All right. So what we're going to be covering tonight is the Solar Warden. These are organizations or things that are happening, groups that are out in space. The SOC, Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, which we call the ICC. We're going to talk about the German Breakaway civilization, the Dark Fleet, Project Moon Shadow, the Martian Defense Force 20 and Back, which is an amazing program, the Earth Alliance, Global Galactic League of Nations, the Intergalactic League of Nations, Military Industrial Complex Secret Space Program, which is initial MICSSP, the Secret Space Program Alliance, which is the SSP, Galactic Federation, and then I've got some information about portal missions. So this is mind-boggling material. I'll preface it that way. And I would not waste your time if I did not think it's a high probability that these are happening. This is not my material. I have not been on spaceships or anything else. This material is a lot of Michael Salla. So I'll refer you to a few people if you want to investigate this material on your own. Michael Salla is a wonderful resource. Corey Good, I find fascinating. Tony Rodriguez, Emery Smith, William Tompkins, who is an engineer and was involved in a lot of this, Randy Kramer. So there's a lot of different people that I used information doing research for the past couple of years to compile into this presentation, okay? So again, it is not my material. None of this is mine. All right, so we're going to start out with the Solar Warden. The Solar Warden is to protect Earth. It was a secret space program run by the US Navy, US Naval Network and Space Operations Command, which is the NNSOC, based out of Dahlgreen, Virginia. However, other material says it is run by the Air Force. And this is something you'll run into, is some of these cross over, intertwine, and then there's different military groups involved. And sometimes it's hard to define which one is which. The Solar Warden is responsible for monitoring all incoming and outgoing traffic in the solar system. Did I tell you we're going to go off world? They're monitoring all incoming and outgoing traffic in the solar system. They were created to protect Earth from hostile aliens. So now we're making a statement, not only are we out there, but there are hostile aliens. And as we go through tonight, you're going to see more and more comments about this. It was developed in the 1960s and 1970s and deployed in 1980 by Earth governments. One of the earliest space programs. There might be as many as 8 enormous motherships that we have that are out there, approximately 40 smaller vessels in the program, and about 25 non-terrestrial officers on their books. Do you remember, and I can't think of the guy's name, there was a young man who hacked into our military database. He's in jail, got in jail, but he's probably out doing wonderful things for the government now. But he came up with a page and had a list of, it literally said non-terrestrial officers on that. And it was actually published and it actually went out there. People saw it. This was also created to reduce the abduction of humans. Now, this has something to do with Eisenhower's 1950s agreement with Greys in exchange for alien technology. Now, you're going to be learning a lot of new words tonight, new things if you haven't already researched and studied the various alien groups that are here supposedly on Earth. And the Greys are one, and those are your typical beings with a big head and the big eyes, and they're seen a lot. The Solar Warden actually could also be called Radiant Guardian, but it's one of the older programs. All right. The next program I'm going to talk, and I just have bullets. I just literally have bullets on these to give you information about these. The next one is the SOC. And this is an independent space co-op. And the SOC began formation back in 1974 in what is called the original historical timeline, or it's also called OT. It seems that we have the human race has been on a path of timeline, and various forces have tried to shift this timeline this way or that way because of their ulterior motives. They want Earth humans to end up over here instead of God's destiny, if you will, here. So they're messing with the timelines, and positive beings are trying to put the timeline back where it's supposed to be, and bad ones are trying to move it here. So this is above my pay grade, the timeline thing, but suffice it to say that there's a war going on with the timelines. There's been 5 major historical timeline changes from resets in an attempt to correct and bring the changing timelines back to the original timeline. Now, there were 4 nations founded the SOC, and over the course of the years, it swelled to 12 nations. And the 4 is the the Soviet Union and the United States, the Germany. I've got some other names later on. Now, the US had built and launched its one and only independent main fleet ship called a cruiser back on May 12, 1981. So we've been doing this stuff for years. Of the 12 nations that formed the SOC, 8 of them had 1 or 2 independent cruisers, and most had several smaller 3-man fighter crafts. However, in 1983, it was decided that to avoid some of the conflicts seen on Earth among many different nations, including some of the SOC, that the SOC would become its own entity. It has since been run independently of any nations or of any old loyalties to those nations. So it's an independent government-run thing. The government is run much like the world government in the original timelines, with a president who presides over the entire SOC, which consists of 4 fleets of ships. Are you ready for this? 9 Earth orbiting space stations that are cloaked, 69 space research stations, 47 planetary research stations on different worlds. They have governors, chancellors, Endermen. Okay. I mean, this is like beyond whatever, but we'll continue and we'll figure out later how much this could possibly be true. The fleet ships, space stations, research stations all use electromagnetic shielding, EMS, that not only deflects projectile and energy-based weapons, but it also has the ability to phase or cloak whatever object it's shielding. Because you're saying, I don't see this stuff up there. The astronomers, all these people would see these things. And, well, if they're all cloaked, and then I have to always laugh at people. They're going, I don't see all these space stations. I said, do you live near an airport? We have Bradley Airport. How many planes take off from Bradley every day? Oh, hundreds, probably 100. How many do you see every day? 2, maybe, if I look. All right. But yet, there's 100 of them taken off from the airport. So anyway, the basic theory and production of the EMS is the direct result of many scientists throughout history that were able to discover and prove the theoretical formulas behind electromagnetic and gravity and the folding of space. So the technology that they're using is beyond anything that we on the surface know and understand. And a lot of that has to do with linking with the alien friends, or maybe not friends, but I'll give you this if you give me that type of thing. All right, the next group, and this group is the most serious group. This is called the Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, the ICC, and they are interested in trade and profit, okay? The conglomerate of corporations from all over the world that build aerospace technologies are involved, primarily military defense contractors with the objective of trading. They're focused mainly on development and acquisition of technology by any means, using a barter system and leaving nothing off the table that they are willing to trade, including human trafficking trading. And humans are in high demand across the universe or whatever, because human scientists, let me just use that for an example. The human scientist is, humans are brilliant. We're not of a hive mind. A lot of the aliens have hive mind, but humans have a way, if they take an object and they go, okay, well, this is interesting. Well, what if we stick this here and put this here and make it upside down? See, we think out of the box. A lot of the groups don't do that out there. They have their schedule, they have their regimental confrontation. That's what they look at, not the humans. So the human scientist is someone that they're not used to. They are amazing. And they are therefore in high demand, among other people in high demand. They have, they want people to work, they want people to do things. This organization is very powerful, very classified, and has always had the latest technology and toys at their disposal, which they hoard, okay? Which should make all of us very, very angry. I mean, I've heard some of these things that they have out there, the technology, and I'll use one as an example. If there's injuries encountered off-world, they actually have medical beds that rejuvenate, will actually put back a missing limb, can revive the person in incredible ways. And yet that technology has not been shared with us. We're still dying of cancer. We're still lining up for vaccinations for COVID. And, you know, we rely on telephone poles. So the technology is just, it's just disgusting what they have and we don't. They recruit new talent by giving false promises of utopian-like living conditions, and they're made to feel special. They're told that they are helping to save the human race, and if they join, they can bring their families and move to a colony, say on Mars or in some of these space stations. But once they get there, they're put into an 8x10 room and given assignments, and that's their life. What are you going to do? Get mad and leave the planet? I mean, you're kind of caught. So if they ask you if you want to go, say no. Say no. They, in essence, become slave labor and prisoners. Not everywhere, but some of these. The ICC, this Interplanetary Corporate Conglomerate, has established over 100 colonies, excuse me, bases, industrial facilities, and plants on the moon. These plants, these places, they're in mining operations. They're doing all kinds of technology experiments. They're out on Mars and several other moons and bodies in our solar system. They also are on many free-floating space stations. ICC has ongoing trade agreements. Are you ready for this? With almost 900 alien civilizations. We look up there at the sky and we're going, okay, let me just, Mary, let me just get that we're not alone in the world. And now you're saying that we have conglomerates from the world going out there negotiating, excuse me, with the 900 civilizations. This is mind-boggling. So they and they occasionally trade with more. And the ICC has massive mining industrial complexes, infrastructures that mine, smelt, and engineer and construct for their colonies, and off-world allies and exchange systems. Their main trade base is on Mars. Okay, so now we're saying our space program, NASA's space program, the big deal about going to the moon, about going to Mars or whatever. If we've been there since the 50s, that's a whole nother thought. All right, now we're going to talk about the German breakaway civilization. We talked a little bit last week about Antarctica, and we talked a little bit about how the Germans didn't lose the World War II, they just left. Some came to America, a lot of them came to America, von Braun and all these people came into the space programs, and scientists came here. They went to Argentina, they went to Brazil, they went to Antarctica. So they also, it says here that German engineers, scientists, military went to Antarctica and established bases and cities inside Earth. Remember we talked last week about Admiral Byrd flying into South Pole, Antarctica, and had the interaction where they whipped him, you know, pretty good, and he came limping out. However, we're going to throw another layer of scary stuff here. The Nazis made contact with the Draco sometime back in the 1930s. All right, who in the world are the Dracos? The Draco, or the Draconians, are commonly described as a very powerful, warlike alien race who hail from the Alpha Draconis star system. Okay, now we thought we were way out there enough. Now we're way out, way out there. These are reptilian aliens. They're said to be expert geneticists who possess a level of technology that far exceeds today's human technology, including the ability of interstellar travel. Some say that they actually originated on Earth thousands of years ago, which is why they feel justified in their attempt to retake Earth for their own. There's perhaps a war going on with them as they try to take us on. And here's why. The Draco is controlled by artificial intelligence, AI, and that is hostile to biological life. They have a hive mind. They have no feelings. They don't care. They're aggressive. They want what they want, and they have no qualms in getting it, taking it. So this should caution us a little bit as we see our human race playing with the idea of introducing artificial intelligence into our bodies, into our minds, the nanotechnology, putting chips in our brain. What will this do? It'll link us with everybody else, but does that also take away our human individuality? I believe so. So they have a hive mind. Again, coming back to their need for scientists, which think out of the box and independently. If they're all operating on the same wavelength, they don't have that. Here's another bad thing. Draco feeds on loosh. What is loosh? Loosh is a spiritual energy that is released by human life forms when experiencing negative emotions, fear, physical pain. Who do you think loves war? The death and killing and sacrificing of war. This is why it's so prevalent on Earth. There's no reason for war. So something is causing this to happen. And we release, they want scary things on TV. They want you scared. They want you nervous. They want you anxious. Because we release this energy that they can feed on, loosh. The elite castes and societies, we call them the cabal, here on Earth, have been infiltrated by the Draco. Nazis and Draco both have that conquering and controlling attitude. Germans established a strong UFO fleet, and they fly off-world to support and protect Draco establishments throughout space. The looming threat of these Mars German breakaway civilizations sent a wave of urgency through secret government agencies on Earth. Thus, a massive clandestine buildup of advanced technology began, giving terrestrial-based governments a leg up in the secret space race. In order to secure such encroachments into the cosmos, new deals were made with the Mars and Germans and the Dracos. So even our good guys, and with good intent, said, okay, we're here, they're there in the technology. How do we get some of that stuff? And negotiations took place, or, I'll do this if you give that. And somehow we the normal world started getting some technology too. And of course, we did a lot of reverse engineering of crashed spacecraft. When the Cabal first established a base on the moon as part of their SSP, did I just say that again? The Cabal, who's our Earth dark, deep groups or whatever, they established a base on the moon as part of their SSP, and they took over the Antarctic Mars German lease. One of the conditions that the lease transfer was that the Cabal would provide 24,000 troops to the Antarctic Mars German IDARF, IDARF, which stands for Interplanetary Defense and Reaction Force. However, there's a continuing conflict between the Mars Germans and the Cabal. Well, yeah, you got the Earth, the banking and all these people that are very powerful, the politicians and stuff, they're very powerful people. And then you got the Germans that are doing this. And so you're going to have this conflict of, we're not happy about what you're doing. So there's going to be an ongoing conflict. All right. The only way, I would love to stop and talk about these things, but the only way I'm going to get through all this material is if I just keep going. So just jot a note if you have a question, and after we're done and make sure we get through all this, then we'll come back to it. The Dark Fleet. All right. The Nazi German secret space program. We just talked about the Breakaway civilization, which is involved, but there's also this one, we're fine tuning it a little bit. And the Dark Fleet is a German secret space program that works entirely alongside the Draco Federation Alliance. The primary objectives are to help quash rebellions on Draco-controlled worlds. What I just said is that the Draco isn't only on Earth. It has aggressively attacked many civilizations. In fact, today I was listening to a man online, and he was saying, I want Earth, us, to become strong and powerful so we can go help these other smaller, more defenseless organizations or planets or places that are being beat up, if you will, by this aggressive group. The German Dark Fleet is also to help conquer new worlds for the Draco, because they're not happy. They don't want just Earth, they want everything. And once they drain, you know, you almost think of them as locusts. They go to one nation, and after they drain all the beautiful things off that planet, then they pick up and go to another one until they just go all over. And they want to be in control of everything. There's a Dark Fleet headquarters is located around the 10 o'clock position of the backside of the moon. The base was constructed there in the 1960s to early 1970s. They have many laboratories where genetic experiments are performed, and they have one section that deals in the human slave trade. Germans man a Dark Fleet for the Draco to protect the worlds the Draco has already conquered and also take over new ones, which I just said. And the US and Americans have also been involved in this program. A few whistleblowers have come forward to share their stories. And Tony Rodriguez, you can actually Google him online, and he is a whistleblower. He has an amazing stories of, and these people that have been in these programs do not remember. And then slowly things start triggering, and just like abductees, slowly the information starts coming back to them, and they start remembering some of this, and maybe they go through hypnosis to try to pull out more information. So Tony Rodriguez and Penny Bradley, she was another one, has some very interesting podcasts out there of what they remember of what they did. When you hear someone personally talking about what they saw, what they encountered, and you sit there and go, you know, I'm not sure this is true or not, and yet it's spellbinding. And you like, listen, and then you hear another person and they're saying the same sort of thing. And then you hear another whistleblower and they're saying the same sort of thing. And then you say, wait a minute, maybe there's some validity to this. So just like abductees, you've got to give them the benefit of doubt to some degree. Fascinating stuff. The next one we're going to talk about is Project Moon Shadow. Moon Shadow. This is the MyLab training genetically augmented super soldiers. This is an organization that wants to create super soldiers. How do they do that? There are military abductions to obtain and train assets, usually children, for the secret space programs. And Corey Good was one of fascinating, and I highly recommend Corey Good material. He talks a lot about being a child and being taken out of school to a special program, and all the kids thought he was retarded or something. You know, he had to be taken out of school to a special program, but they would take him underground and start training him for these super soldier programs. He and quite a few others are out there that give this information. So definitely type in or Google Project Moon Shadow and see what they're talking about on these super soldiers. Now, they identify and assess sensitive individuals for work as intuitive empaths so that they can interface with extraterrestrials. They develop genetically engineered embryos that they extract from willing or unwitting female host. Genetically engineered embryos. The children are born. They live a few normal years, then they're brought aboard secret space program craft, and they're flown to the moon or underground for training exercises to bring out latent abilities. This, my lab, did not involve traumatizing experiences. Thank God, because MK Ultra mind control does, but this, my lab, does not. But they use these genetically enhanced children to train them in strategy, agility, and strength. And a lot of that too is using the mind, the pineal gland, and to psychokinetically move objects with their mind, and to be very aware of what people are thinking all around them. They can walk in a room and assess what that alien is thinking, have the telepathic communication with these beings. This is what they needed and wanted, and this is what these children provide. The end goal is to produce an army of super soldiers who could fight against any unwanted alien threat. All right. The next program we're going to talk about is the Martian Defense Force. Now, this has one of the most interesting aspects to it. This is Project Mars installations, and it has the 20 and Back program. And I don't know if you've ever heard of the 20 and Back program. You can Google it, and there are quite a few people that have come forward after remembering that they had an extra 20 years of living that they didn't know about. What they basically do, this is a joint operation created by a number of different Earth governments to guard 5 expanding colonies on Mars. They defend these bases from indigenous Martians. Let me repeat that, indigenous Martians. So there are beings that live on Mars that it's their planet. They live underground. And there are other extraterrestrial species there. And a soldier is selected to serve 20-year term of service. Now, what does that mean? The 20 and Back is when the soldier serves their 20 years. Then they're brought back to the point in time when they agreed to serve. They are age regressed or time traveled back to that age, and then their mind wiped. Only 2 to 5% of the 20 and Back ever regain their memories. And I'm going to read in a minute an example, which is fascinating. The base that's on Mars is called Ares Prime. It's complete with farmers, engineers, bureaucrats, and an Earth-like ecosystem. Whether that's all underground or above ground, this didn't define that. An excellent interview that I think that you would enjoy is from Dr. Sala, and he interviewed a U.S. Marine Corps, Michael Christopher Gerloff, Gerloff. Gerloff. And I'm going to read just a little bit of how this happened to him when he was 18 years old and he joined the Marines. And he went to boot camp in 1978, May 31st. He went to the boot camp in San Diego. When the Marines get there, they're given a lot of tests. And he went through days of tests, and he was broken off into a special group for special testing. Late during the test and during the day, he was working on international Morse codes. And during the test, a corporal came to him and took him into another room. A captain came into the room with a file on him and said, "We're really impressed with your test scores, and we've been watching you for some time. Michael, would you like to go into space?" Michael asked, "What is this with the NASA?" And the captain said, "No, there are a lot of programs that the public is not aware of." Michael asked about the 6-year program that he signed up for the Marines. And the captain said, "No, this is a 20-year obligation." And Michael asked how often. "Well, I see my family." He'd been unable to reach them. The Marines are allowed one call once they get there to their family to let them know that they made it. And he was unable to get through. There was no, back then, voicemail. So he was unable to get his family, and he was upset about it. And the captain said, Your family will never even know that you're gone, but I will send your family a telegram telling them that you're at boot camp. Michael said, all right, I'll do it. Captain said, okay, now this is for your nation, exploring the unknown. 2 more Marines came into the room. The captain thanked him and he left with them, and Michael went out the room with the Marines. He was led out of the room and downstairs to an underground tunnel, electric cart, and he was taken to a location that others were waiting outside of the door. He sat there and he had to fill out tons and tons of forms. Naval and Marine Corps personnel were present. Other people were present too, doing the same thing that he was doing. One document that he stood out, and it said it was NASA. He also saw corporate entities in the documents. One of them assigned was Lockheed. He was told that this 20 years will not be treated like normal 20 years in a service. There would be no retirement, but he would be provided a guiding hand to help him when he returned. So he finished the paperwork, and then he went with the other people to another location, and then that was it. No other memories. When he kind of became aware again, he was back in the room with the captain, and the same 2 men were standing there waiting, and he was horrified that he had fallen asleep in front of the captain. He started apologizing to the captain, and then Michael realized, well, wait a minute, I left this room. I went out and filled out forms. What am I doing back here? And they just kind of sat and watched him as he went through the shock of all this, as he tried to remember what all he was doing and how did he get back here? And the captain began saying, you're going to have a great career, and go back to your platoon, and I'll send your family the telegram and everything's going to be wonderful. And so Michael was confused, but he went back to his platoon in his boot camp, and he finished his 6-year career. Later, in 2016, Michael, going through his parents' house, was looking for something, and he found the telegram from this time, and it triggered a lot of memories, and that's what started his memory. And he actually has a copy of this Navy, it's called a Marsgram. It's a military affiliate radio system document, and he's presented it as proof. And there's no sender on the telegram, which is interesting, but his father did receive the telegram. Now he has memories of having been in a secret space program as an intelligent officer for 20 years. 20 years he went somewhere. 20 years he had a life doing all kinds of things, and then was brought back to this moment when the colonel was sitting there and said, okay, you're going to go down the hall and fill out some forms. How is that even possible? But this is what the 20-year and back program people talk about, is that they had 20 years somewhere else, and they're going through hypnosis and stuff, trying to recall what happened during those 20 years. And the ones that I've listened to online, they talk about flying and going through flying vehicles where they're having little wars up there and attacking others, of running around on the planets, being attacked by various creatures on the planet, of working mundane one was a mechanic. He says all I was doing mechanical work. So it's fascinating. So I highly recommend delving into the 20 and back program and just kind of see if you even can believe it. Anyway, the next program I'm going to talk about is the Earth Alliance. Okay, so we're halfway through. The Earth Alliance is to protect our planet from alien threats. The Earth Alliance is a federation of human governments to protect our planet from alien threats. The main foe is the Draco. The Earth Alliance also rose to oppose the Cabal and the Illuminati, which continue to push our planet into disease, war, starvation, political upheaval, civic unawareness, wage slavery. The Cabal has been controlled by the Draco for centuries, and they are connected to occult practices and devil worship. The Earth Alliance is intent on flushing out these groups and saving the planet from destruction. I almost look at these as like a patriotic group wanting to save America, or a religious, godly group saying we're going to save Earth. They began in earnest in 2017 to root out and destroy the negative influence. That hasn't been too many years that this group has been going very aggressive. USMC troops flooded into underground bases to eliminate Draco operatives. I don't know, we talked a little bit about the DUMBs last week, the deep military underground bases, and how they are not all our nice little military, that there are a lot of radical organizations using underground facilities. And they say that a secret military tribunal was established, and there's sealed indictments that are filed across the US and world as they try to flush out some of the more negative evil beings and people and bad things that are going on. So that's the Earth Alliance. Now we're getting into some pretty cool stuff. There's a global Galactic League of Nations. This is a cooperative group, which I think ties in with our original, the other group, the SOC. But this group is a cooperative group of Russia, China, US, and Germany, but not the breakaway Germany. What they do is, what happened was crashed alien craft were retrieved all over the world. And many countries reverse engineered these crafts that landed in their countries. And as they developed their spacecraft and realized the potential of all these alien intruders, they began to want to join together. And they joined together as a more powerful force, and they call themselves the Global Galactic League of Nations. They were the core members of them, and other nations were given token membership to keep them quiet about the UFOs. And America and Russia have worked together throughout the Cold War on these types of reverse engineering and technology. But we also have, in addition to that group, the Intergalactic League of Nations, called the IGLN. And this was created by the United Nations for the other countries. The Intergalactic League of Nations was created to placate earthbound nations and maintain secrecy for the burgeoning space programs. Now, they don't want any of this information out there, so they got to have everybody join a club. All of the European countries, some of the African countries, India, and lots of Latino countries are involved, like Estonia too, Ukraine, Greece. The IGLN was formed as a type of carrot for the UN nations to keep them quiet and make them feel involved in protecting the planet. The ICC provided them with bases and technology, but for security reasons, these were entirely outside of the solar system. The larger nations like US and Russia, and they made agreements with smaller nations to allow their teams to retrieve crashed UFOs on their soil to keep curiosity to a minimum. So if these smaller little countries have a UFO that crashes into their environment, they call these larger nations, and they're equipped to come in very quickly. And anyone who's read anything about the alien crashes know, even like Roswell and all these other crashes, within a very short period of time, a group comes out of nowhere, a military group, and grabs the craft and anything else that happened to come with it, and they take it out of there and tell everybody, you didn't see anything, you don't know anything. And if they start talking, you get a knock on the door, and these military type people say, you talk anymore and you're going to die. I mean, they're very aggressive. And even Roswell, a lot of the people were talking about how they had knocks on the door telling them, you know, you did not see this, you did not hear this. And we're going to talk about those types of things next week when we talk about disclosure. The IGLN is a cover to hide the ICC and Solar Warden programs. Most of the moon base personnel are scientists and engineers who are working on advanced technologies that have been supplied to them by the ICC. They were developing these technologies for defending the Earth from a possible alien invasion. Little do they know, they're already here. The personnel wear jumpsuits, very similar to the ones featured in Stargate, Atlantis show. They wear nation flag patches on their left shoulder and program patches on their right shoulder. They, oh, that's all basically what I have for that. The next group, this is the interesting group. This is called the Military Industrial Complex Secret Space Program. Its initials are MICSSP. And their job, or what they want to do, is to release UFO alien information to the public. Okay, so this is a military industrial complex secret space program that wants to release UFO alien information to the public. However, Earth Alliance wants full disclosure to occur now with the benefits it will provide to humans and to Earth right away. But there's a possibility this would crash the current global economic system and endanger worldwide or engender worldwide chaos. The cabal or the Illuminati, they want a gradual release of information where they could continue to be in control of the spin on the subject material. Both the Earth Alliance and the cabal will use this third party, the MICSSP, as a stepping stone towards full disclosure. This group bridges the gap in knowledge to people, and they're using mass media to slowly release this info via books, programs, movies, TV, conferences, etc. I don't know if you've ever been to UFO conferences, and I've been to a lot of them. And I actually stopped going because I was so frustrated. They are controlled. Those conferences, the speakers are allowed to speak, and then all of a sudden they hit this glass ceiling. And you know they have more information, but it's like, whoop, that's it. No, you can't go past that. And I'd be like, they were almost there, and they would just stop. And you're like, oh my God, why are you doing this? It's because all of them are still controlled to a large degree. And it's very, very frustrating. And I'm sure they're frustrated because there's so much more information, but they are releasing more and more information. If you've seen TV lately, I mean, there's so many things on television, Ancient Aliens and the Discovery Channel, and they released some videos of the Tic Tac. I don't know if you've seen the video of the Tic Tac. So information is starting to come out to some degree. But after what we're talking about tonight, and they have all this technology that we could use today, it's not right, it's not fair. But you know what, once they release that, how angry are we going to be that our grandmothers and our mothers and fathers and these people died because they were withholding this technology? And we look at the pollution in our lakes, and we look at the pollution in our air and our food, and how we're getting ill, and there's no reason for this. So the humans are going to be pretty pissed when they find out all this information. So there's probably a real hesitation, because they're like, maybe not my generation, maybe in someone else's generation, so they can get beat up by the regular people, because it's just wrong. All right, the next one we're going to talk about is the Secret Space Program Alliance. And this one kind of leans more towards, I think, what Donald Trump's trying to release in the space program, because I think he's very aware of a lot of the secret space program. His uncle worked with Tesla material. So I think there's a knowledge base there that he's anxious to get some of this out into the open. Of course, now who knows what's going to happen, but. All right. The Ssp Alliance is comprised of the Solar Warden, ICC, Global Galactic League of Nations. So it kind of combines all of this group together. It's kind of, we consider it the big daddy of all the secret space programs, and the one that is intent on saving mankind. It is at the top of the totem pole in the secret space program hierarchy. Now, this is like the Earth Alliance, but exists totally in outer space and has direct contact with alien species. Okay, so this isn't just an earthbound discussion between other nations. This is, we have our discussions plus we're talking to other contactee, other alien species. The SSP has a seat at the so-called Super Federation, which is composed of over 60 extraterrestrial species that have been conducting experiments on Earth's animals, humans, and plant life. Let me repeat that. The SSP, this group, has a seat at the so-called Super Federation, in which it's composed of over 60 extraterrestrial species that have been conducting experiments on Earth's human, animal, and plant life for hundreds and hundreds of years. It also has a seat on the Galactic Federation, which is composed of hundreds of different benevolent ET races. This organization has also had contact with the Society of Hyper Advanced Human Beings who live under the Earth's surface in vast climate controlled chambers capable of supporting human life. And we talked about that last week. We talked about under Earth, the civilizations that may live inside Earth. The underground is composed of multiple groups that have branched off from the natural development of human life on Earth. They can time travel to maintain an ideal timeline, which is interesting. The goal of this program is to reveal all of the knowledge around space to the public to save us from the Draco and to free our minds, thus ushering in a new golden age where we can exist both here and in space with no fear. The Ssp Alliance wants humanity to gain access to information and technologies that have been hidden by the cabal, and many are preparing mankind to ride a wave of enhanced consciousness, perhaps an electromagnetic shift in solar dynamics that will actuate a quantum leap in human awareness. One of the problems with all of this technology that will be made available to us is they were wanting our level of awareness, our level of service to others and not to self, to become a dominating factor for humans. And we've been very slow in getting there. Latent abilities in humans have been suppressed by powerful groups. And this has been manipulated in our DNA, being given fluoride to negate our third eye. I mean, all of this type of things that are not good for our physical forms and physical bodies has restricted us from knowing our full potential. It is thought that the SSP controls all the other space programs, such as Earth Alliance. A branch of this is IDARF, IDARF. This is the Interplanetary Defense and Reaction Force. So that kind of says, something happens, we have a group that can go out and fight off invasions. Lunar Operations Command, okay. Lunar means the moon. It's a demilitarized zone on the moon. It is an area where SSP personnel rendezvous before going further out into the solar system and beyond. It serves as a neutral zone for the various SSPs. It also acts as an air traffic control for our solar system, okay? This is off the moon, so we have a base called the LOC, and it's demilitarized, so it's kind of a all man's land or no man's land, and it monitors what's coming in, going out, coming in. The LOC has 3 moon sites, LOC Alpha, LOC Bravo, and LOC Charlie. In the late 1930s and 1940s, the Germans constructed what became LOC Alpha while occupying an adjacent facility, which was ancient and repressurized. They found things when they went up to the moon. They found things on the moon and inside the moon that suggested civilizations had been there before and probably were still there. It was built, this facility that the Germans constructed was built like in the shape of a swastika. It has been expanded and no longer is just the shape. And Corey Good, if you listen to one of his podcasts, he actually has a lot of his podcasts recorded from being at the conferences. I never saw him in person at a conference, but they're from conferences. So he'll have slides and he shows his little spacecraft flying into this moon and the base and flying into and showing the whole setup is fascinating. The LOC alpha structure, there are lava tube skylight in the crater where LOC alpha is. Now, this is the first time I've ever heard of the reference of lava tubes in the moon. Okay, so that was new to me. I'm like, okay, I never learned that. This leads to a huge lava cavern, which is part of a network of caverns connected by lava tubes. There are flight bays from top to bottom. The lower flight bay is used to fly through a lava tube to the LOC Bravo. LOC Alpha has at least 11 subsurface levels. There's a VIP area on the first floor. The second and third floors, medical, surgical floors. And on one of the lower floors, they actually have an amphitheater. Now, air traffic control, LOC Alpha would keep up with the traffic of all the space programs, civilian, military, and intelligence satellites, NASA, secret military, other nations, and all the SSPs. And their assets is to try to plan and schedule those locations and activities to prevent them from being visible to each other as much as possible. Air traffic control also keeps track of ground-based astronomical observatories and their documents and controlled access times so that they can, when they have windows to the sky, to observe, they can screen and throw up mirages. This is why there's no real accidents when it comes to SSP vessels flying through a live video feed of NASA, the space station. The traffic is very highly planned and controlled, and or like I said, they'll throw a mirage to screen it so you can't really see it. And I think there's been people that have watched there's a download that you can watch what's going on at the space station, and they've said occasionally, all of a sudden, it looks like something gets screened on the feed. All right, now this is the last, getting to the end. This is the last one. This is the Galactic Federation, and this is amazing. Oh, good, we're really in good time. The Galactic Federation of Light, Interstellar Alliance, Confederation of Planets, Sphere being Alliance, and Galactic Federation of Worlds. This is a huge organization. And I listened to Mary Richards. She's the wife of Mark Richards. And Mark Richards is actually in prison for something he didn't do, but he's been involved in these programs. And he talks a lot about the Federation. And Corey Good talks about the Federation too. This is a cooperative of space traveling civilizations in our Milky Way galaxy. The Federation consists of hundreds of thousands of members and was founded millions of years ago after a series of wars in the Lyra constellation. The destruction that happened on that occasion led to the survivors trying from then on to solve galactic conflicts in a peaceful, negotiated way. Because what you do is you also reach a level of understanding what happens on one planet can have ramifications to not only other planets, but other dimensions, other parallel universes, all kinds of stuff. And that's what happened when we blew the Nagasaki bombs and the Hiroshima bombs. When they blew off, they reverberated all over the universe. And it was like a calling card. A lot of aliens didn't know we were here. And all of a sudden, like, whoa, what was that? And a lot of areas where the ramification hit them because this reverberated. And this drew a lot of attention. And this brought a lot of the more positive beings to Earth too. And that's why they're seen flying over missile sites to make sure. And they actually shut them down to show, we're not going to let you do this again. You may want to kill yourselves, but you're not going to blow up this planet. One of the speakers that I heard, Howard Beatty, a very interesting man. I have a couple of his books. He said that the purpose of the Galactic Federation is to resolve issues with the members, promote peaceful commerce within the galaxy, defend members in their galactic travels, coordinate with other governmental councils in other galaxies, and even host first contact events. And he had a whole list, not a whole list, there were about 5 or 6 bullet points of what aliens or the good aliens around Earth are waiting for before major contact. And they have a whole plan of how they're going to incorporate first contact, whether it's going to be at a neutral place, it's going to be with people that they feel would be receptive. They're going to use aliens that look very human and blah, blah, blah. But they want to make sure that humans are, number one, not going to try to kill them. Number two, that most humans are service to others. We've got to stop this service to self, the selfish endeavors. And we're just so slow getting to that point where the aliens or the Galactic Federation feels that we're worthy of becoming space brothers. The Galactic Federation has an enormous fleet of spaceships at its disposal that mediate or, if need be, intervene in any place where conflicts impend. The interdimensional technologies that they have to use are of such a high level that we can hardly even imagine them. Their control of energy is almost perfect. So things like dematerializing, becoming invisible, creation of small orbs of energy that can be released with an assignment is no problem at all for them. Their ships are often created of living material. And back in the 70s, my father and I saw a UFO, and it was pulsating, it was vibrating, it was like it was living. And in fact, maybe next week I'll tell you about it. They actually sent people down from Blue Book to talk to my father because he's a pilot. And he had called the airports wanting some information. So I do believe in this vibrant living material and the pulsating and living material. But some of these are as large as planets, and they're totally self-sufficient with woods, fields, rivers. I've heard many abductees talk about going on board or being taken into an alien craft, and they walk around, they're like, oh my God, they have a forest. They have, it's like being in a beautiful, beautiful place, and they have water, and they have, they were shocked. The Galactic Federation is controlled by a large council made up of smaller councils, each which representation from all of the separate members. The hierarchy between members is usually determined by their spiritual development. So this is a higher level organization. The most highly evolved members are beautiful light beings who voice the will of God. At this moment, a considerable part of the Galactic Federation is actually present around Earth to bring the tumultuous end to our cycle of duality to a happy conclusion. Up to now, it's been watch, let them do their own thing, and don't get involved. But now they're starting to try to help. And I think there's been a lot of calls out for help. Since the population on Earth is human, the human civilizations within the Galactic Federation are the ones that play an important role in the assistance with our ascension process. To this group belong, for example, Pleiadians and the Syrians. They're very human looking. In fact, there's probably them running around all the time. You probably don't even know it. About 40% of the Galactic Federation is human. The rest consists of other species and light beings, which means they would not be in physical form. Many of them share a genetic link with us, but are more highly developed than we are. They have visited our planet for millions of years. They've left behind many souvenirs, such as buildings, art objects. However, some of this has also been left by negative alien visitors who are not a part of this Galactic Federation. This link with extraterrestrials is hidden as much as possible by mainstream science, which is under control of the Cabal or the Illuminati. They don't want us to know. To obey the universal law of non-interference as much as possible, the contact with Earthlings has been kept to a minimum by the Galactic Federation until now. Some people on Earth have a genetic link with a certain galactic civilization, and they live on Earth on their behalf, have to help. Dolores Cannon, in some of her books, that's what they kind of say. I am part of this alien group and I'm here to help. I chose and volunteered to come help. I'm a human soul, but I'm helping with this galactic group. Their experiences are shared with those galactic groups who can tap into the energy and experiences and help educate them on how humans work. Generally, they stay in the background as much as possible. However, they are actively involved in our ascension process. They are negating the actions of the Cabal and the Illuminati. They're keeping the oxygen level in our air up to a nice level. They're preventing nuclear attacks and wars. They're cleaning up radioactive fallout. They're eliminating chemical pollution, chemtrails, diseases. They're minimizing the effects from natural disasters, man or not man-made. As soon as the heads of government of our countries on Earth, who mostly do know of their existence, exercise transparency, this will change. Okay. All right. Those are the groups. I want to talk 1 minute about portal missions, and then we can open this up to discussions and questions. All right. Portal missions. This is material that I got from an Emery Smith. I highly recommend this man, brilliant man, he was like a doctor biologist, and he was involved a lot in analyzing physical stuff. He didn't know it was alien stuff until later on. And this actually came from notes I got from a conference that he did in Contact in the Desert. They run excellent conferences. It just breaks my heart that so many of these aren't being run now because of the COVID. And because they always had an incredible one. I never went to it, but I would read or see some of them. For portal missions, Emery says, we step through like a blurry picture frame. We just walk through and you're there immediately. It is not like wormholes or going through things like that in the movies. You just walk through what looks like a picture frame and you're there. He says, I suffer no side effects other than perhaps my ears popping and my sinus will sometimes hurt. Now, the portals are linked to a grid system. Earth has the ley lines. We talked about that last week of the energy field that looks like a laced net around Earth. And these are energy ley lines. And inside Earth, there's also ley lines. The universe has ley lines, and so does every planet. And all of these are connected. So artificial satellites are placed on these universal ley lines to amplify those energies throughout space. And this is what is used as one of the ways of transportation and harvesting energy, including the sun. A portal mission is usually comprised of 4 or 5 individuals. Special suits and helmets are used for portal missions. Canines are genetically modified for this. They are trained and conscious animals and can communicate and sense things humans cannot sense. They are loaded with equipment that enhance their capabilities. Robots go with them on these missions. These robots go into the portal first and put little metal devices into the ground that shoot out waves through the planet that come back as pictures so they know where they can walk and where they need to be careful. Now, they can only go into these portals for the portal mission for about 45 minutes, and they usually have a 2-hour gap. So the astrological alignment of certain suns, plural, suns, planets, ley lines in the universe are set up perfectly. And if you don't get in and get out during that window, you may not get back. And Emery did talk about one of his groups that did not make it back. Don't know where they are. The portal missions are to collect specimens, plant life, etc. If they see extraterrestrials and natives in the background, they're not allowed to engage with them unless they are approached by these beings, which is rare. They do not bring weapons. We have already been, he says, we've already been to these places for decades. We get to preview the past journals of the missions, the people that went before us. They took videos. We will sit and go through the videos of what they saw, what they encountered, what they picked out as being something that needs to be researched or looked at a little bit more. And we find out what was dangerous, what they determined was dangerous. And so we have a good idea what to expect, because this is our return to these places. We have special technology to scan everything before we engage with it, because many plants and animals have defense mechanisms, and you don't want to learn the bad way about what they are. We bring back specimens. Example, he says we brought back a leaf that was bulletproof. We reverse engineered it, and now we have bulletproof vest. Interesting. I don't know if it's true. At a new site, we set up tripods. The crew stays very close to each other. Robots are constantly monitoring them and their vital signs via the suits that we wear, but also in the helmets, we can see the other people that we're with and their biological responses, whether their heart rate's real high or if they're feeling some stress, we can also see that. And of course, the people that are monitoring us can see this. And the canines are fully equipped too and are there to help protect us. And they perform that job very well. The canines can also go into areas that are too dangerous for humans. Inner Earth has portals too. Places inside Earth have pockets of their own air and light sources. He says, we have a burned snake is one way that we explore inside Earth. And it looks like those Chinese plastic snakes that we all had as kids that are on hinges. And they're like 9 feet long. They're made of a special material. They're coated. And they literally burn through the rock and dirt to go deep into Earth to find hidden places. They record and transmit what they encounter, and they either return or they end up getting lost. Very interesting. So I also recommend Emery Smith as getting some more information on this. All right. I want to just do a summary here. How can all this be possible? I mean, it stretches our minds beyond capacity to even understand or grasp the enormity of what these suggest. It forces us to expand our concept of Earth and our perception of reality. It forces us to expand our concept of human civilizations, ancient history, and now suggests that we are a part of an active galactic family. What an amazing thought that is, that we're not alone, but we're part of a galactic family. It forces us to entertain the thought that Earth is of interest and focus of many extraterrestrial races, some good, some bad, and they've been visiting here from Earth's beginning. They are aware of us here. We try to grasp what sounds like well-established, ongoing, interactive, cooperative endeavors that are not only on Earth, but on the moon and Mars and all of the regions of space. Could we literally actually have conglomerate corporations here on Earth that have already been out on Mars and are mining and on the moon and other places? Has this been actually going on for years and years? We have to digest the suggestions that aliens want what Earth has to offer. our scientists, our engineers, our soldiers, physical items from natural to man-made, our strength, our power, our imagination, our creativity, and they seem to have been engaged in doing so for a long time. We need to reassess our knowledge of Earth's ancient history and look at the evidence from a totally different viewpoint. Who are they? Why have they been here? We're going to talk about that next week a little bit. What's their agenda? And do they care about us? Or are we just like sheep to them? We need to evaluate who or what is in charge of our world and politics, religions, and finances. Boy, that changes the whole thing, doesn't it? If we have alien people involved in our world, we should be excited that there may be a galactic benevolent brothers and sisters that are highly evolved, that love us and want to see Earth accelerate into its destiny of being a universal galactic planet partner. But most of all, we must realize that the universe is full of powerful, God-loving, spiritual beings, of which we are a part. All right, I know I talked for a very long time there, but we'll open it now for any questions or comments or, whatever. Anybody?
Mary.
Yes.
Hi, it's Tina. I don't know if you can see me.
I do see you, Tina.
Oh, hi there. Thank you for that. Earlier, when you were talking about reptilians, you were mentioning something about the way they think, and you said hide-brained, or is it hive-brained? And what is that?
HIVE, very much like you would see with ants. They
Okay.
kind of hive, so it's a hive mind. So they share a common directive, and this would be kind of run by an AI, telling them what to do, sort of. So they may not be independent thinkers.
Okay, hive. All
Hive.
right. Makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. Anybody else?
Hi, Mary. Oh, sorry. You go ahead, Blanche.
Muted. Yeah. I have a question. You said something about the Cabal and
Cabal.
The Illuminati, but aren't the Cabals a Jewish group that, or am I thinking of a different group?
You're thinking of, you're thinking of the Tree of Life, the Cabal, that. No, this is a different terminology referring to another word for the Illuminati, or the group of powerful network of, your bankers and those people that are in powerful positions. So, but you're thinking of the Kabbalah, which is the Tree of Life in the Jewish aspect. Yes.
Oh, okay. Oh, all right. Thank you.
Good question. Good question. Go ahead.
Hey, Mary. So you mentioned a lot about Corey Good and Emery Smith. I think both those guys are very interesting guests. They get quite the story. Seen a lot of their videos. Was there any reason why you didn't bring up David Wilcock? Because I know they're all like connected, right? I mean, I know David Wilcock rubs people the wrong way.
I used to love David Wilcock, and I think he has, and he worked with Gaia, and he has a lot of information, and I'm not going to say bad things about him, other than he lost for me his momentum a little bit, and things were going south. So his commentary started becoming too self-involved, and instead of demonstrating a more global aspect, it had become too focused. So I backed off to let him kind of work through. Everybody goes through tough times and difficulties, and I was hoping he'll come back to being more of a global perspective, because his knowledge base is tremendous, just tremendous. He has so much information to evolve, and he really helped Corey come out of the woodwork. I mean, Corey is a very shy person, and unlike Emery Smith, who's a very outgoing person, Corey is very gentle and quiet. And so David really helped him come out and share his stories. And the stories are just fascinating, mind blowing. And I remember, one of Corey's attributes was being an empath and being brought before they would shuttle him to these various places, these various meetings, and he would be able to intuitively hear the conversations between the aliens, or if the aliens wanted to talk to those aliens over there, he was able to help them communicate. But you hear about these meetings that they've had, a couple here on Earth of extraterrestrial meetings, and one of them occurred in England, and it was an old like church place, and I wish I remember the name. And they went into great detail of what they had to do, because a lot of these beings do not breathe oxygen. Some of them are water creatures. And so there's a whole dynamic of trying to give them what they need so they can be here in this physical world of Earth. And it was daunting. It was very, very interesting stuff. And it's mind-boggling. And again, people, you just kind of take this information in, because I haven't been on the craft. You haven't been on the craft. We don't know. We haven't seen, tasted, and touched this. But, you know, I do believe that technology from, you know, what 70s and 80s, they would say, hey, what do you see for the future? Oh, I see, you know, flying in my car would be, you know, go from here to there. And maybe I'll push a button and my food will appear. I don't have to go to the grocery store. What happened to that technology? I don't think it stopped. What do we got? A microwave, you know, a cell phone? We don't have much else. So I don't think technology stopped. I think it went elsewhere. And I do believe in this material.
Yeah, it's hard when you first hear, like, when I first heard Corey's story, I thought this dude was legitimately insane, because it's it's out there, like the 20 back concept, and, you know, not having any memory of that, and then having it like slowly come back. I mean, it's got to be terrifying if you think about it. But like when Corey Good, the one thing that kind of struck me with him, he looks like a man who's telling the truth. Like when I see him telling a story, he looks like he's being sincere. He definitely is convinced all of this stuff is real, and he experienced it. So you get that feeling for sure, but it's out there. And same with like Emery Smith, you know, both those. And yeah, right. He's a lot more relaxed and like kind of funny. Whereas Corey's kind of quiet. He almost looks like he's like scared at some point. Like why did they kill him? You know what I mean? Like he's coming forward with all this information. I'm surprised the government hasn't stopped it from happening. I mean, I know he said he's protected by the blue avians or something like that, right?
But we just talked about one of the organizations is that it's a slow release, that they do want some of this information to start coming out. So it is time. And they probably, just like you just said, no one's going to believe him anyway. Let him talk. Yeah. Who's going to believe in, you know, that he's 20 years and that? But when you have another whistleblower and another one and another one, and they didn't know each other. And so they're starting to come out, you know, and with the internet, they're able to, you know, really talk and bring out the information quickly and, you know, effectively. I don't know. But yes, no, you just Google these people and they do have it. Now, Gaia used to be a very good place to go to get information. Gaia is another word for Earth, Gaia. But then they started making that you had to join and you had to pay to see this and to see that. So a lot of the free, and I'm a free person, I don't like to sign up for anything. So that was kind of a disappointment. But a lot of the conferences, which we had and we don't have now, they would actually post some of their speakers, and that was wonderful. Now, did you ever read much about William Tompkins? And
he's another one that I hear his name thrown a lot with David Wilcox materials, and is he the one that died recently? I think he was like a mentor of sorts to David, and knows some really, really out there. I mean, there was this one story, and it was from Corey Good, but he talked about encountering a reptilian alien. And this is when he was, you know, part of this program. And he said that the closer he didn't even see it yet. And the closer he got to it, it made him feel terrible, like terrified. And as soon as he did finally see it, it's like one of those things where you're shitting in your pants and you don't know what to do. And this thing makes you feel like, you know, it wants to kill you or eat you. Or I mean, it was a pretty scary story from what I remember. But I don't know. A lot of these stories of the aliens is tough until you actually see them.
Yep. And anybody else? Go ahead. Anybody else want to comment?
Yes. How you doing, Mary? Hello, everybody. I just, first off, at the beginning, I did a quick search, Google, for non-terrestrial officers, and I came up with the name Gary McKinnon. Does that sound right?
I don't know those names. I saw them, but it was a list and it was a dark piece of paper. It was
Oh.
the actual
No,
document.
no. This is the person that hacked it. Gary McKinnon is the
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
There's a bunch of articles that are hitting that it's a UFO hacker tells what he found, reveals detail of NASA data breach.
Mhm.
So anyway, there's if anybody's interested in that. But what caught my ear was you just kind of said it about fluoride in the water to prevent people's third eye. And I've seen documentaries about fluoride, and it really doesn't have any value as far as
Mental. Yeah.
Japanese or whatever they're telling you up front. And it's just toxic waste that we're paying people to dump in our fresh water supply. I think it was called The Culling or something like that was one of the documentaries that I saw. But that's an interesting aspect of the third eye thing. So I just wanted to point that out. And then another thing was, I think it was last week, you had a piece of paper that had all these different words written on it, all these different agencies and how they're all interconnected. It was just a whole bunch of like FBI and CIA. Yeah. And you kind of touched briefly on one that I was wondering about, which was Illuminati. And it made me also think about Bilderberg and Freemason. And I wonder if those, yeah, that's the one. So I wonder if I, looked at that close enough, if I would find the two that I just mentioned, Bilderberg and Freemasons.
Yes.
And I wonder if those have anything to do when you were mentioning about the global conglomerates, if they have anything to do with that.
Yep.
And so, yeah, that was it. I don't know if they're in there. I didn't see it, but there's a lot of stuff to read there.
You can actually Google this. This is actually, I gave Mike a copy, so we have it on the Connecticut MUFON under he has a little place for me and I put all my stuff, but you can actually Google this and you can type in QAnon map.
Okay.
Map.
QAnon map. All right.
Or the Great Awakening map. There's two of them. And the Great Awakening map is the pink one. And this one's kind of cool because you can't really see it, but there's like an Earth. So this is all Earth related activity. And then this is all the sky. And this has a lot to do with the Galactic Federation and everything that I just talked about is on this map. And this is the Great Awakening map.
All right.
So two of them. And they're delightful. I mean, you sit here and you just read all the words. It'll take you hours just to read all the words. And then they have little arrows that go from here to there. And they're a little different. They have some different stuff on them. But even this one, the QAnon one, in the lower column, it does have the Galactic, the Secret Space Force, the Reptilians. They have those words, which was amazing because I thought this was from the military. And when I first saw this a couple of years ago, I like, whoa, it's got space stuff, alien stuff on it. I'm like, wow, this is just too much. So you start seeing this merging of, and that's what I said, I'm from the paranormal group where the psychic stuff. And then what we have is the UFO arena. And then over here you have the conspiracy group. And guess what? They're all converging into one big, happy, monstrous thing.
Yeah. And then one other observation was the one group there, the Military Industrial Complex Secret Space Program. And, is that related to anything about what Eisenhower said in his farewell speech about, to beware the military industrial complex? He does mention that specifically. And, I don't know if they got started about the same time or if they just gleaned from his speech. And if so, it's kind of, do they have like letterhead printed that says that on there? Because it's kind of unimaginative. And I wonder if they call themselves something different, but.
That's amazing. That's fascinating. I didn't know that.
Eisenhower says that on his final term right before Kennedy took over to, beware the military industrial complex, but he doesn't follow it up with secret space program, but that is a term that's the first time I've heard that.
Wow.
So, yeah.
I thought Ronald Reagan made warning signs, said things like that too, didn't he?
Well, he brought up about imagine if there was some extraterrestrial force or being or whatever, and how quickly the world would come together to unite against something from outside of this world. But it was just more in hypothetical. He didn't actually name anything to that effect. So, yeah. All right. Thanks.
Fascinating. Oh, I love your stuff. Okay. Somebody else, you want, go ahead. I'll see your name. Ken? No, who's that? Ken, did you have something, Ken? You're on mute? No,
It doesn't say he's muted.
no.
It says he's not muted, but his microphone might not be working properly.
Oh,
All right, you want to
yeah,
try?
sorry.
No. All right, anybody else? What do you think of this? I mean, is it something that you've ever heard before, or is this just beyond comprehension? And this is fun because we went way out there, and then next week we're going to come back and we're going to talk about some of the people that have been involved in, the one-on-one working with people and trying to get stuff out there to the public. But this material is just, to me, just when I was reading this, it's mind-boggling, and you just have to kind of take it and put it over there and say, okay, I'll have to digest this. But can you imagine if they decide tomorrow, for full disclosure, what would happen to your friends and family? Other than we get to say, I told you so. They'll have a total meltdown. I mean, they've not ever even entertained the possibility of an alien. Or the presence of these people. And when we start talking to them and telling them, hey, got news for you, they've been involved in Earth for millions of years, and they may have been genetically messing with our DNA. They may have been involved in the whole construction of the Earth and what's been going on with people and animals, and using us as a biological laboratory and taking things from this laboratory elsewhere to other parts of the universe because there's such a cool animal or such a cool reptilian or whatever. So, this is just incredible stuff. Incredible stuff.
I got a question about when you mentioned that the people that are in the galactic force or whatnot, and they have these technologies that they're not sharing with people in the world as far as energies and technology. How long do these people live? Because if you're not feeling good, then you can lay down on the bed and get better. If you have an affliction, that I'm just curious about that. And
So you're talking about whether there's people on the face of the Earth that know about this stuff and have access to it, say underground, because we know that they have technology underground with the maglev trains and all these other things, that perhaps they're already using these some of this facility, and I can't answer to that. Certainly people seem to live for a long time. That you're like, she's still around.
yeah, and the story about the Marine that went into the program and 20 years passed. No, I'm taking it he didn't age at all. That like he just kind of like he didn't realize it, and he was just the same he was like a minute or so ago, right?
Yes and no. No, let me just speak to that. He has to go through a process. All the people that do the 20-year and back, they actually have to go through a several-day process where they put all kinds of fluids and all kinds of things through their body to rejuvenate them and to bring them back to the age where they were taken. So it is not just their back. It's a process of physical, and they said it's extremely painful. I remember Corey Good talked about it because I think he did a 20 back, and how it does go into your body and have to go through this process. So it's not a automatic thing.
And that story reminded me of a story I heard from somebody when I was in the Army about, and it was just a passing thing. It wasn't 20 years, it was more like 3 hours, but he was just driving his car on the highway. And I don't know, I forget exactly because it was so long ago, if he saw something or if it was a flash or whatnot. And he doesn't remember, but the next thing you know, he's still in his car and driving on the highway. This is like out in the Midwest where you can go in the same state for hours. And it was like he was 3 hours up the road. And he hadn't gotten in any accidents or anything, but he didn't remember those 3 hours. It was just all of a sudden, boom, you're up there 3 hours. And you didn't have any reason to, make up a story. I mean, guys can tend to do that in the Army because nobody knows anybody, but
Well, and
it
that's your
seemed pretty
typical,
genuine. Yeah.
that's your typical abduction program, where they actually have missing time. And, Barney and Betty and Barney Hill and so many people have the missing time. And that's what alerted them to the fact that something was wrong, something happened to them. And they are doing something, and then the next thing they knew, they're still doing it, but it's 3 hours, they've lost all this time. And there's a group of them. So next week, we are going to talk about Bud Hopkins, Whitley Strieber, these people that have documented the missing time and the abduction programs, and have, worked extensively with people, taking them under hypnosis to find out what happened to them during that 3-hour process, 3 hours of missing time. And it's shocking because the person did not know it. I have several videos and stuff that I acquired over the years from the conferences of abductees. Fire in the Sky, Travis Walton, which is an amazing one. If you've never seen the movie called Fire in the Sky, it's probably one of the most well-versed abduction stories, because it's not only Travis Walton, but also the people that were with him, the people that worked in the logging industry. They saw him they saw him go missing. And in fact, they were charged with murder. They were going to be charged with murder because he disappeared for a week or something, and no one knew where he went. But he had been abducted, so he was regressed and hypnotized and found out what happened to him. So we are going to talk next week a lot about these people, authors that have come out and about the abduction program. And I've myself met many abductees out in the conferences where I would have lunch with them or dinner and sit and talk and listen to them. And their stories are absolutely mind-boggling, shocking. And one of the things that tie into what we've talked about tonight is how many abductees talk about when they're abducted, they are in a place where there are military people, that there are doctors, that there's German-speaking people and aliens, or they are abducted by aliens, put back in bed or wherever, and then they're abducted by the military, because the military wants to know why they were abducted by the aliens. And they're like, this is just amazing. But they talk about being underground. They talk about places that are being taken where there's a lot of snow. So you think of Antarctica. So these abductees have amazing information. And again, just like tonight, do I know it's true? No, of course I don't. I wasn't there. I wasn't her. But I listen to them, and I am sensitive to it because I work with past life regression therapy. We run into a lot of people that have the stories of being abducted or of being in a time period when they talk about the beings that come from the stars. And like we talked about one night, they'll say, oh, we're poor and we're, ancient times, and we live in a village, and the beings come from the stars. And they tell our chief, they teach our chief how to plant rice or plant things, and they learn. And that's when we first found out that the chiefs, when they get this information, decide not to share it with the people, that they're smarter. Yeah, go ahead.
That sounds a lot like the Hopi Indian prophecies.
Yeah.
So the tribe of the Hopi Indians, basically, they talk about like the end times. There's this story, and at the end of it, it basically talks about like, it's the same thing that like David Wilcock talks about, the whole Sambartica fire. Like they're talking about a solar event occurring. And the Hopis particularly says something about like a blue star is going to appear in the sky for a certain amount of time. It's consistent with all these other like the Hindu religions, and there's probably like dozens. And David Wilcock went through and did all the research to all of these books and found how they're all connected. And each one talks about the solar event that's going to occur. And when the sun gives off this energy, I mean, I'm sure it's going to affect our planet in more ways than one. Like it might affect us on the planet, but could also affect like the core of our planet and cause more like seismic activity. But there's the reason why they're going through all these aliens and talking about all this stuff is because they generally believe that after this solar event happens and humanity is going to be in trouble, like guys like David and Corey think that aliens are going to come save us from that catastrophe, because they can't interfere with our free will. That's the one thing. They cannot interfere with the free will, like you said. But then you get like something like the reptilians. How are they able to do that stuff? That's what confuses me about it. Like, how come the reptilians can break those laws? But I won't go backwards there. But they think that all like these aliens are going to come in spaceships and start like saving the day. Like the Earth is going to be basically blown to shit, and we're going to be rescued by the aliens. Is like the gist of it.
Well, working backwards, you just said about the reptilians interfering, but if they have members of the cabal or the Illuminati or the satanic worshipers, these people that, worship Baal and all these others, if they're on board with what the reptilians want to do, they are in our Earth arena and they have free will to affect us. But one of the things, keep in mind, any of the evil aspects in our world, they usually will ask us or show us, and we either concede by not acting, and therefore it's compliance, and they therefore can move forward because we didn't say no. So we are allowing all this stuff to kind of take over because we're not actively saying, no, don't do that. And as far as the solar event, go back to timelines. Because how many times have we been talking about catastrophic end of the world, and there's earthquakes and there's the whole world's going to go to hell and whatever. Well, maybe that was one timeline, but because of what we've been doing and what, we've been living, maybe we pulled it into a different direction where it's a more positive direction than that other timeline. So you may have different timelines. And this energy that may be coming from the solar may actually be a very positive, uplifting, awakening energy that the negative beings on Earth may not want us to participate in, and may put a screen up there. I almost remember somebody saying that recently, that's in the news, about putting some sort of screen around Earth to deflect or to keep something from hitting us. Is that a positive thing or a negative thing? So
I think of it all as a positive thing. I mean, it's gonna whatever. So ignoring all of like the alien life stuff, even in like metaphysical circles, they all believe that the Earth is, for the first time in like the universe's history, a planet's going to evolve into the fifth dimension with its people. So whether or not you're getting it from ancient texts or David Wilcock and those guys, or just from these other metaphysics people, I mean, it sounds like a solar flash is coming one way or the other. I think that's like the one thing that everybody's agreeing on, is that this is coming and it's going to change us for the better. It might get a little worse first, but it's going to get a lot better down the road.
It may not be for 5 or 10 more years, though. It may be down the road a little bit. But I don't know about you, but I think it's amazing the awakening that is happening with people now more than ever before. And I'm out on the internet all the time, and you're listening to all these people talking, and so many of them actually will end their podcast with a prayer. And the prayer isn't always to God, but the prayer is, bless us with compassion, open our eyes, let us be more caring and service to others. It is beautiful, especially these young people. We call them geeks, and these people that are on the internet all the time, and they're talking to each other and they're sharing information, and it is fascinating. It's wonderful. And I absolutely feel the level of the energy is getting stronger and more beautiful every day. I really do. And, just even we talk about COVID being such a bad lockdown and the evil thing, but guess what? One of the things it provided everybody was a break in the rat race, the going to work and sitting in your cubicle and doing your little thing. How much more time have parents spent with their children? How many more people have done something out of the box, do something a little different because we're stuck together. So let's do more things with our kids. We've had more family time and more family energy and love. You get frustrated because you're whatever, but maybe look on the bright side of what's happened too. And only when we can kind of stop and regurgitate and say, okay, I've lost my job. What else can I do? Is there something new and different? Because what's going to be released, if this happens, if disclosure happens, if there's a thing called Gesera and Nasera, I don't know if you've ever heard of that, where there's kind of a whole reset in the whole way that we do banking and the whole way we have a monetary system. There may be opportunities for us to do things that we never were able to do before because we didn't have time and we didn't have money. And maybe this new reset or this change in what's going to be happening in the next few years will allow us with disclosure to actually, function in a different way and do things maybe we wanted to do always and do something that we would love to do instead of just earning a living. So we have to kind of look at things in a different perspective sometimes. And I'm a Sagittarian, so I'm always positive, and I always make lemonade out of lemons. But that's not to make light of what a lot of people have gone through. But I think that we, in the not too distant future, in fact, the very next few years, we're going to see a whole dynamic change in how we look at life and how we approach life. And I think there's going to be a lot of things that are coming at us. Go ahead. Somebody else? Oh, come on. You got to have something to say, even if you say, Mary, this is crazy stuff.
Oh yeah, I got just an observation on my part. And I missed like the first 3 classes here. I didn't realize this was going on until like the 3rd week or so. And I've enjoyed tuning in and hearing all of the different things. And it occurred to me that I guess what I like about it is, and it's kind of interesting because it makes you wonder about this. There's a program on AM radio, which I usually don't. I'll listen to that when I go camping, and there's time doesn't really matter when you're on vacation, right? So you're
Right.
You're like in the middle of the night or whatever.
So you're watching Coast to Coast? Is it
That's right, coast to coast.
George Norrie. Mhm.
Yeah, from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m., which
Yeah.
normally during the week you're not going to stay up at night and listen to that. So I think that's why I enjoy this during the week here from 7 to 9 because I'm hearing a lot of the same things, but from one person, yourself.
Yeah.
Instead of, so this is like about maybe 6 months of coast to coast wrapped up in like 6 weeks. So thanks for that.
Yeah.
All right, but yeah, I just and that's what it is, the paranormal. So you've heard of it, and I think it's interesting also that you think, well, it must not be that good if it's they give it the the graveyard hours of 1 to 5, but they could put anything else on there. It could be infomercials or whatever. So I think there's enough of a interest across the country that it's and it's a syndicated thing. It's one guy, like they say, coast to coast. So it's 1 a.m. to 5 a.m.
Right.
Eastern time and 2 to.
It's been going on for years and years and years.
Yeah.
And Art Bell used to be one of the major talk hosts on there before George Norrie, and there's several other ones too. And Art Bell's brother, and I wish I could remember the logistics of his brother, but he has something to do very powerful with science and with technology. So you might want to Google that too. Art Bell's brother, or Art Bell too, is amazing. But George Norrie is a fluffy kind of person on there, so he's softer and nicer, and Art Bell is rather more direct.
Yeah.
But this Coast to Coast has been going on, maybe 15, 20 years. It's been on for a long time.
Yeah, I'm looking at it, I think 1984 when it first came on.
Really?
And Art Bell died in 2018. It's said anyway. So
Okay.
yeah.
Okay.
So I don't follow it that closely because I just don't have the opportunity to. But
Right.
it's on the web, and
Yeah.
I guess tonight's topic for Coast to Coast is spontaneous human combustion. So I think we've all heard that one before, and
Right.
that's
right.
always good. Well, all
Yeah,
right.
my-
Anyway.
My friend Larry, forget his last name, wrote the book on the combustion, instantaneous combustion. And it's a big book. And he documented all the cases and stuff like that and how it does happen. It really does. So I
Yeah.
wonder if guest speaker, who's his guest speaker? Do you see who's his guest speaker?
I'll get back to you on that. I'll let somebody else
All
talk. I'll look it up.
All right. Anybody else? Sure.
Those one thing you were talking, is that Tina? Go for it, Tina.
No, I was just clearing my throat. Go ahead.
You were talking about Emery Smith and the portals towards the end there. And I remember this is the story I heard from him on, he was doing one of his like talk show interviews or whatnot. And he was mentioning that there's people who are working on Mars right now that don't even realize that they're working on Mars.
Wow.
Because they go through these portals, right? And you don't feel, just like you said, you might get like a little like vertigo, or you don't even notice it mostly. And he said there's people walking through doorways and poof, they're on Mars, they're doing their job, but they don't even realize it. And then they come back none the wiser.
Wow, wow. And now you're probably into second generations of people that have been born there, and that's all they know is that, you know, this Mars and you know, living there. And a lot of them are the super soldiers. They actually breed a lot of these young people to go out into space and give them attributes that align them to be better equipped to deal with interstellar travel and space. But, you know, you keep coming back and say, well, I saw, you know, the moon program, and I saw them shoot a little rocket and they went around the moon, and we were all excited. But you're saying, Mary, that they've been going out there for a long time, and they got bases on. They probably waved to the Apollo as they went by. Hey, how you doing? Yeah, good luck. I don't know. So there seems to be kind of two worlds, you know, the world where we get to get a little tiny scoop of ice cream, and then the ones that are having the banana whatever's. Anyway.
Okay, so here you go. So the first half of tonight's program for them is American Hauntings, Troy Taylor, expert in ghosts. And then the second half is electrical engineer Larry Arnold.
Larry Arnold, that's him. That's my buddy.
Combines his
name.
his scientific background with the world of Forteana and weird events. He'll share his pioneering research in spontaneous human combustion and the latest cases of people who have inexplicably burst into flames.
Yep.
Sounds cool.
Not if you're one that did it.
I just have a comment. They are so focused on Mars. I mean, they really want to be there and get there. And this is like the fourth probe they're putting on. There's something on Mars going on, in Mars, whatever.
Mm-hmm. I mean, when you listen to what these people are talking about, there's been mining going on Mars for a long time. We have establishments underground inside Mars because the atmosphere, but they said, number one, the atmosphere is a little bit different than what they show in movies. It's not all red, and it does have, you know, a different atmosphere, but the atmosphere they did lose, I guess, at one particular time. Something traumatic did happen. But there's underground installations, there's beings that live there that have always lived there, the indigenous tribes that live there, and they're not human. They're insects, you know, maybe insects or those, there's different things. But the one thing that they say is don't make the mistake when you're on these off-world planets and there's a creature that's coming towards you that looks like an insect or looks like a bear or something. Do not think that they are not intelligent, because these creatures are as smart, if not smarter than you. And so they say it really changes your attitude towards the animal and the insect races, because they are different, because they'll tear you apart too. So many of them, the stories are fascinating. I just highly recommend you to pull up some of these people and find out what they have to say. And I'm sure I didn't give you all the names. I have heard other ones, but Tony Rodriguez and Corey Good, and what I had several of them. Anyway, I lost a piece of paper.
There's another one called Simon Parks that he's got some pretty wild stories, but he knows a lot about the mantids, reptilians, of course. He used to be like a member of parliament in England, I think, or he was like the governor of like a town. And then after he got out of politics, he came out with all the alien stuff. And he does have a monthly or bi-weekly thing too. It's all on Connecting Consciousness, I think is the name of his outfit, but It's interesting.
I listened to a site, it's called beforeitsnews.com. Before It's News, it's one word, beforeitsnews.com. And Simon's on there every day, almost every day.
Okay. Yeah.
But it talks a lot about what's going on with the elections and with underground, what they're finding under Washington, D.C., all of those kind of things too. He's very knowledgeable and very, very great speaker. He's very
Yep.
concise. He talks, very, 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 very good. And another one that's on Before It's News that I think everyone should be listening to is Juan O. Savan. Juan O. Savin, S-A-V-I-N. And he's has amazing information on what's happening. And he has a lot of that. He was actually talking about the space programs the other day, but he's talking about what's happening with the elections. He's talking what's happening in our future and with the energy coming in and the changing. And so he's a very well-versed individual. And he's on Before It's News too. BeforeIt'sNews.com has a lot of podcasts too. And I like the site. And the reason I like the site is when you're wandering out on the internet by yourself, you have to be careful what you click on because you'll get download a virus. And when you go Before It's News, they've screened everything and cleaned everything. So no matter what you click on, they'll have a list, a screen of like 10 different podcasts submitted by Charlie Ward or Savan or this, this guy and that guy. And you just click on it and you can listen to it and not worry about getting a virus from it. If you choose something and they'll say you're now leaving Before It's News, please, be careful. And so then I always close that. I won't go there. I'm too careful. So, but I recommend that. More? Anybody else? I love the bell. Is that the time up? Yes, it is. 9 o'clock.
No, no. I should have turned it off.
That's all right. It's 9 o'clock.
I'm getting warnings. Warnings are coming in about the storm now.
Oh, is that what it is? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So next week we're going to be talking about the UFOs. I have a list of the people that we kind of want to throw out there and talk about that have been disclosing information. Some very great information, Linda Moulton Howe and the whole group of them. So hope you'll tune in. It's our last week, the last planned week. I gave you my email address. If you have an idea, let me know, what you liked about the course. If you would like to delve into some different material that I didn't cover or I didn't cover deep enough, let us know, because Mike is totally open to, extending things or doing something more in the future. I've enjoyed this and I hope you've enjoyed this. And it's just nice to be able to share information, talk about information, and have an open mind group of people because it's so rare in the world. All right. So anything else, anybody? No? All right. Well, stay safe tomorrow in the snowstorm, and hopefully I'll see you next week. All right. Good night, everybody.
Night. Thank you.
Bye.
Love you, everybody.
Love
Good
you,
night.
Mary.
Bye.
Good night.
Bye.